Hello, everyone, and welcome back for another episode of the Outdoor Adventure Series podcast, where we celebrate individuals and families, businesses, and organizations that seek out and promote the exploration, stewardship, conservation, access, and enjoyment of the outdoors. Visit El Paso is the sponsor of today's episode. El Paso is more than just a place on the map, it's where Texas begins. El Paso is a vibrant city with unforgettable sunsets and offers a unique blend of history, culture, and natural beauty. El Paso is the perfect destination for family vacations, couples getaways, outdoor adventures, meetings, conferences, and conventions. Today's guest on the Outdoor Adventure Series is Scott Cutler, a board member for the El Paso Trans-Pecos Audubon Society. Scott is going to share examples of the public outreach conducted by the El Paso Trans-Pecos Audubon Society, including the activities of its board members. We're going to learn about the many birding opportunities in the El Paso region, including locations that we've actually chatted about before in early episodes of the Outdoor Adventure Series project with Visit El Paso, including Hueco Tanks, Franklin Mountains State Park, Rio Bosque Wetlands Park, and Scott's also going to chat with us about some of the birding opportunities that exist actually right in downtown El Paso. We're going to learn about some of the birds in the specific regions, as well as the seasonal opportunities for birding. So lots of great information today, and I know you're going to enjoy it. Scott, it's a pleasure to have you on the Outdoor Adventure Series. Welcome.
Thank you, Howard. It's a pleasure to be here and look forward to talking with you.
Fantastic. And I'm very excited. It's literally less than a month away when I'll be traveling to El Paso for the Outdoor Writers Association of America, or OWAA, our annual conference. And I know we have a couple of excursions planned with the Audubon Society, the El Paso Trans-Pecos Audubon Society. And I'm just very excited to learn more about you, the organization, and the impact that you're making in the El Paso area or southern southeast Texas area. So if we could, just share a little bit about your background, if you would.
Sure. Well, I have a degree in wildlife management and then also a degree in biology with an emphasis on ornithology. And I've always been somebody that's enjoyed being outdoors as far back as I can remember. I love going out in the woods, just exploring, looking at plants, animals, just everything. I found it very, very relaxing and I don't know, just a lot of fun. So, as my career developed, I had always been interested in museum work and mainly natural history museums. So my career has been focused mainly on that. And I've worked at a number of museums over the years. I finished my career at the University of Texas at El Paso's Centennial Museum, which is a natural history museum. First one in El Paso, and spent 23 years there working on their collections, both in the museum itself and also with the biology department where they have their research focused on the bird collection. They're preparing specimens. So I've been in El Paso for, starting in like 72, I came and visited, but been a resident here continuously for the last 33 years.
Wow.
I've gotten to know them pretty well.
I imagine El Paso has changed a little bit since you first arrived.
Oh, yes, it has. It's always amazing to see the growth that's taken place. And in spite of that, we still have a plethora of these beautiful open space areas. Of course, we have the Franklin Mountains State Park, which is the largest urban state park in the lower 48 states. It's over 26,000 acres, I think, at this point, and it still grows a little bit. It's right in the middle of the city, so it's very accessible and has a lot of beautiful trails on it. Good place to go bird watching or just go out for a hike and enjoy nature. And we have a whole lot of other, you know, nice outdoor places that are really special and very attractive for birding and just outdoor activities. So,
Excellent.
yeah. So the weather's great here. People are wonderful. Right next to Mexico, and there's a whole different culture there that's very friendly and inviting. It's really fun to participate in cultural activities on both sides of the border.
Excellent. I like to, if we could, just circle back to your youth. You said as long as you can remember, you just enjoyed being outdoors. Was there a role model, was it the parents kicking you out of the house and say, "Don't come back until dinner time"? And how did you develop this love for the being outdoors?
I think I was given the opportunity to explore on my own, which I really appreciated, but I didn't have anybody who really took me out and showed me the ropes, so to speak. I suppose the earliest recollection I have of this outdoor work is going to my grandparents' home in Dover, Massachusetts, and they lived adjacent to a 100-acre nature preserve. And whenever we were back there, I'd go exploring. And then also where I lived in California, in Glendale, California, we were sort of a hop, skip, and a jump from Griffith Park, which is a large urban park and natural area. And so I went walking over there all the time and just really enjoyed walking. I wasn't into birds at that time, but just, seeing what was out there, looking for different animals and stuff like that. So it was, I guess, just a fortuitous series of events that really allowed me to foster my innate interest in animals and the outdoors.
Okay. And it was this innate interest in the outdoors and the animals, the mammals, the birds, that is that what kind of sparked your interest in, say, biology and in studying ornithology in college?
I think so. I was always curious what it was I was looking at. And so I'd always be trying to identify the stuff. And, you go to field guides or go to museums and talk to curators, stuff like that, to people with more experience than me and knowledge. So that kind of helped a lot.
Okay.
And so, and then when I got into college, I meet some of the professors and take classes from some of them. And they were really excellent helping me understand how nature works, how to identify things. And most of them had a lot of enthusiasm of their own for wildlife and the outdoors. So
Okay. All right. Very good. I always love just to get a little bit of the background and how we got to where we are today. What was that spark, and whether it was just on your own exploring and starting to make connections and asking questions, or sometimes it is the parents, the grandparents, aunts and uncles who are our role models. So I love hearing those kinds of stories of how you got to where you were. Let's chat a little bit about the El Paso Trans-Pecos Audubon Society. Um, it's interesting, the name. I mean, I'm here in Las Vegas, so we have the Southern Nevada chapter of the Audubon Society, uh, and and I know there's the society is part of a national organization across the U.S. What is what is the uniqueness of El Paso Trans-Pecos Audubon Society? What is it made up of? Multiple areas? Is there a geography within the Southeast Texas area, Southwest Texas? Excuse me. I think I said Southeast earlier, so I stand corrected, or sit corrected. So tell us a little bit more about the origins of the society in your region of Texas.
sure. Well, it's actually been around quite a while, not as the El Paso Trans-Pecos Audubon Society. Back in 1938, the El Paso Bird Study Group was founded, and it became a very popular organization. They started publishing newsletters in 1942, and so they had a lot of interest. Uh, uh, Local people, a number of folks, I think, were members who actually had connections to the newspapers here, and they would write articles for the newspaper, columns, that sort of thing. Uh, so initially, I think the group was pretty localized here in the El Paso area. And of course, in 38, 40, El Paso was a relatively small city, certainly compared to now. Uh, but the current manifestation of the organization uh, became official in 1974 when we received our charter from the National Audubon Society. And we've been very active since then, doing field trips, doing conservation work, setting up sanctuaries, helping other organizations preserve land, uh, and providing field trips for people too, so that they can go out and enjoy birds in particular. But whenever we do go out, it's always sort of a general nature walk too, where we're looking for mammals, and insects, lizards, plants, that sort of thing, because all of it makes up this huge ecosystem of our planet here. And so everybody's interested in how it all fits together and works. But we do focus mainly on birds.
Okay. I'm curious, just given the nature of your work and in the Trans-Pecos Audubon Society, how has the ecosystem adapted to the changes in the amount of people, to the changes in the water availability, the climate? How is it adapting? Do you have hope for the future within this region?
Yes, yeah, I think there's always hope. There are, well, I should say that the Public Service Board back in the 1950s acquired, well, the city of El Paso acquired 14,000 acres, I think it was, from the Texas, forget, well, from the state of Texas. And that was essentially to help protect the water resources here in the El Paso region, help prevent the aquifers being drained, pumped dry. So there's a lot of open space here. Some of that has been lost as the land has been sold to developers. And so it's expanded, but there's still, I think, over 8,000 acres of open space land that's available. And that's just that part that the city owns. And then there's all these farms. El Paso was a huge farming community back in the late 1800s, early 20th century. And so there's that open space land that is very helpful for wildlife, as well as protecting the water resources. So there are organizations like the local land trust that are working to protect those open space lands, trying to get them protected from development. And so I'm hopeful that all of that will eventually work in the city's favor in providing a real nice area for everybody to enjoy. Um, we
Excellent.
have limited water resources here, and as the population grows, those resources diminish, and you have to end up looking for other resources. So if we can protect the open space that we've got, that helps to recharge the aquifers and helps cut down on heat sink effect cityscapes provide or create. where they hold heat a lot longer. So the city tends to not cool off as well as it would with more natural open areas.
Gotcha. So I'm curious too. When I read the introduction, you identified you as a board member for the El Paso Trans-Pecos Audubon Society. What is the role of a board member? I mean, how are you active within this organization?
Well, we work to provide opportunities for our members to go on field trips, to have public programs. We just about every month have a lecture or a presentation about local birds or even international trips people have taken. And then also being on, we have our meetings on the UTEP campus. And so we tap into many of the faculty members there to talk about their research, things that relate to uh, open space, to conservation, and that sort of thing. So the board chooses who is going to make these presentations. We have a field trip uh, coordinator who's on our board. And so she is the one who kind of works up, brings to us ideas for field trips. And then we approve those. And of course, we do also help other organizations in our area with funding that from our membership donations and gifts to help things like different wildlife rehabilitators in the El Paso area. We have a very active organization called Second Chance Wildlife that we provide some financial assistance to so that they can continue to rehabilitate injured wildlife. And then the zoo here has helped a lot with the rehabilitation of raptors, birds of prey. And so we provide some funding to them to offset the expense caring for those animals. So the board really just kind of shepherds the organization along and provides these educational opportunities and conservation efforts for the community here. And we do
You know,
provide
so
there as well.
okay. Sounds like a great example of the public outreach that the organization is involved with. Are there any other examples of the impact or the organization, folks like yourself, get to make in the community to help raise their awareness that look around you folks, there's so much available here. What other kinds of outreach are you doing?
Oh, we have lots of different, I guess, well, conferences and organizations put on events that we will go and have a table at so that we can talk about what we do and the benefits of joining our organization and also the impact that we have on trying to protect the environment and the wildlife that's in our area. I should mention that I didn't really clarify our working area. It is mainly the El Paso County area, but we also focus on Hudspeth County, which is a little to the east of us in Texas, and also southern New Mexico, mainly Doña Ana County. But we do field trips and things to other areas in Texas, like the Fort Davis area, up into the Oregon Mountains, sometimes Cloudcroft, which is in Otero County. Uh, and then, as I said, we also do some international trips as well, but that's separate from our focus area. But
Okay.
uh,
As far as birding opportunities in the El Paso region, um, when folks are coming into the region, where are they typically going to visit? Is there one place that's the must visit? But because I know you've got Franklin Mountains, Waco Tanks, you've got up in the Red Sands area, you've got the wetlands. So you've got a lot of places where birding activity is going to take place. But So describe some of those opportunities people will have.
Well, we do have a lot of places here that provide a variety of habitats. And because of the different habitats, you have the opportunity to encounter different types of birds. So many times we get inquiries from people asking, where can I go see a burrowing owl? Or where am I most likely to see a golden eagle or snowy egret or something like that? And we do have places that we can direct people that are really providing them the greatest opportunity to see what it is they're looking for. And so, if you'd like, I can kind of read off a little list of the
Sure,
places.
let's
Okay.
do it.
Rio Bosque Wetlands is a very favorite place. It's over 350 acres of areas that have seasonal wetlands to them. Uh, and it's a very popular place and pretty easy to get to. Does have wetland birds, especially when there's water there. They have their water mainly coming from a water treatment plant. And they now are getting it almost all year. There's usually maybe a month or so of water deliveries have dropped. But even when there are no waters in the cells, uh, there's still all these other upland habitats that they can go and look for stuff. And that's a great place for burrowing owl. Franklin Mountain State Park, as you mentioned, is a really popular one as well. And they actually have a bird blind in the park, the Tom Mays unit of the park. It's very, very productive. They do put feeders out there, so it's a big magnet, and they have water there as well. Another wetland is the Kevin Von Finger wetland, which is at the Keystone Heritage Park. And that's a permanent wetland, natural, uh, with water with the groundwater, as well as some seepage from a dam that's nearby. But that's always got a lot of neat wildlife in it, birds in particular. There's the Joaquin Teschner Nature Preserve at Wrestler Canyon, which is a remnant of a major arroyo system. It's 91 acres, has trails on it, a very, very good place to get out and do some bird watching and look for other animals as well. And that one is managed by the Frontera Land Alliance, which is a local land trust. You mentioned Waco Tanks State Park. That is a huge area, not acreage wise, but a hugely popular spot for people to go for bird watching. You do need to make reservations to go in there. They have to have you have to have a guide that takes you around in there. But if you just call ahead of time and make the arrangements, they can set you up with that. Our local Audubon Society has a sanctuary that we've managed for, probably 35 or 40 years. It's called Feather Lake Sanctuary. And that's a water detention pond that we manage and kind of rent it from the Public Service Board and manage it as a wildlife sanctuary. The El Paso Archaeology Museum has a nature trail that is actually, this is an interesting location too, because it's on property that was once part of Kastner Range, which is now a national monument. Just a little over a year ago, federal government designated it a national monument. And so by walking on these trails, you get a chance to see a lot of the wildlife, but you also get a sense of the expansive nature of Franklin Mountains and the lower Bajadas, the foothill areas of those mountains. And so that's a really nice spot to go for a walk. And the nature trail is very accessible as well. Fort Bliss Pond, which is not on Fort Bliss, but it's near there. That's a water treatment plant you can drive into and see quite a variety of birds. Crossroads Pond is another one. And then Memorial Park, which is a city park, seems to be a really popular place for migrants especially in the fall, but also in the spring, because there are a lot of trees there. And just things like warblers and vireos and other things tend to pop down there to rest as they're moving north or south. So, and then also outside of the El Paso area, there are some other great places as well. I mentioned the Davis Mountains. Fort Davis area, Davis Mountain State Park is an excellent place for bird watching. That's about a 3-hour drive from El Paso. Post Pond and Marathon, also about 4 hours away. It's a very nice spot, has permanent water there, and it's a very historical spot as well. Guadalupe Mountains National Park and Carlsbad Caverns National Park are within a 4-hour or so drive of El Paso. So you go to those places and it's really great. Of course, there's also the Sacramento Mountains, which is about a 2.5-hour drive from here. And in there, you get these high elevations, like 7 to almost 9,000 feet, where you get a whole another class of birds in there at times too. So just a really wonderful variety of places to go and explore. And I know we're kind of focusing on the bird watching and all of that, but El Paso itself has a huge history as well. So after you've finished a day of bird watching or hiking, you can explore the downtown area and take in a lot of the history of the El Paso or the Paso del Norte region. So there's a lot to do here.
Very good. I have to say, and I kind of share this with you uh, at the beginning before we hit the record, is I'm always looking for my next place to live. And I have chatted with a representative from Hueco Tanks, Franklin Mountains, the Frontera Land Alliance. And I have to say, listening to what you are gifting us today and sharing about the various areas that you can enjoy the wildlife and the birds, you're making a compelling argument for relocating to El Paso. So I'm excited to get there and just to, unfortunately, it's 4 days. Well, it's only 4 days. I'm sure it could be a little bit, it needs to be a little longer just to really take advantage of the region and what it has to offer. And I think you're correct. I mean, you can be outdoors, but you also have the history and the culture of just being in El Paso. And I'm sure the food is amazing, by the way. So I can't wait for that as well. I am curious too, and you kind of alluded to it, the seasonal aspects of birding. And I know you've got the spring migration, you've got the fall migration, and w- are there some special times or places that you would recommend the visitor to go when the seasonal activities are taking place?
Sure. Well, I'd have to say just about any of the places that I mentioned are good for fall, or spring migration. Uh, Probably the Rio Bosque wetlands is the top candidate. Uh, the Memorial Park, I have to say, and the Kevin von Finger wetland. I mean, any place you can go that has water is going to be a real magnet for wildlife, especially
Okay.
stuff because you have the water there, you have plants that are usually thriving in those areas with more water. I would also mention the Franklin Mountain State Park, that Tom Mays unit with the
Hmm.
bird block, because they have water and they provide supplemental feeding there. It's a really good spot, not just for migrants, but also for uh, the resident wildlife that comes in and
Gotcha.
uses these facilities.
So I'm curious, over the years that you have been in El Paso during the migration, is there a bird or two that, oh my God, I haven't seen this bird or I've always wanted to see it and here it is during the migration. Is there one or two that stand out for you?
Well, yes, there was rufous-backed robin, which is a south well, a Mexican species. You get it more down like in Mexico City and maybe a little further north. So robin-like bird, very much looks like a robin. It has a little different coloration. It's not a common bird here, so I guess it's not one that you'd expect to necessarily see in migration. Uh, I think any of the warblers, we get these yellow-rumped warblers, the Townsend's warbler, hooded warblers, we've had those come through here as well. Those are really exciting to see these little ones because especially in the spring, um, the males are in their finest plumage and they're just stunning birds to see. One of my favorites is the male western tanager, which is this black and yellow bird with an reddish orange head, feathering on its head. And then we have orioles here too, hooded orioles, Scott's oriole.
Really?
Those are always really beautiful things to see. Another one that's interesting is the Swainson's hawk. That is a summer bird here, nests in our area, but in the winter it migrates down to South America, to Argentina and Chile area, Patagonia. And so that's always a fun one to see when it comes back for its spring visit. Uh, yeah, I think those are probably the ones that strike me the most. Of course, we get hummingbirds here. We've had about, I think, up to 14 species of hummingbirds seen in our area. Some are very rare, but we have the black-chinned hummingbird, which is kind of our resident bird. You'll often see it all year round if it doesn't get too cold. So then we get in the spring and the fall, a lot of ducks migrating through. So the wetland areas like Rio Bosque or Kevin Von Finger wetland, really great places to see a variety of birds. And sometimes we even get real unusual things, like every once in a while we'll get a brown pelican that comes in, or we had a long-tailed duck one year, which is the duck, but got blown off course. So over the years, we've actually recorded, I think it's up to 449 species of birds that have been seen in the area, positively identified. So we're kind of at the edge of the eastern birding area and the western birding area. And really the West is what we have most of. But because we're so close to that separation with the eastern avifauna, we get quite a few of the birds that you would typically associate with the eastern part of the United States. Here, like cardinals, we have them showing up fairly often. In fact, I was down at Kevin Von Finger wetlands about a month or so ago, and there was a male up there. So, and of course, with climate change, some of this separation is kind of changing as birds that are used to a certain type of climate find our area more appealing to them.
Sure.
At least moving into our area. So,
Sure. No, I love just kind of hearing you speak about the birds that have been visiting the region. And for our listeners, as I was asking Scott this question and I'm listening to him, I'm also seeing you light up, Scott. I mean, the smile and just the on your face as you're chatting about these birds. And again, it's getting me excited for getting down there for the conference. And which, speaking of the conference, we have two tours that are going to be for field trips that are going to be for our members who are going to be attending the OWAA's annual conference, one before the conference starts and one right after. I think I've signed up for the one right after. I don't know how much you've been working with Visit El Paso, but do you have an idea where these field trips might be uh, visiting when we get down there?
well, right now we're looking at Waco Tanks State Park. So we're still kind of working on the logistics of it. getting the permissions, things like that. But if that doesn't work out, or we may do one there and then one somewhere else to provide another opportunity. And I'm kind of thinking that Rio Bosque wetlands or the Kevin von Finger wetland would be a good one because then you've got this other mix of habitats. Getting the real desert-like habitat at Waco Tanks, but then you're getting this wetland habitat with a whole different consort of birds.
Okay. So,
Thing I was just going to say another thing that's nice about Waco Tanks is there is a very historical component to that field trip because that has been an important sort of pathway for Native Americans, indigenous people to use in their migrations as they moved around uh, over the seasons. Because Waco Tanks is named Waco Tanks because of the Wacos, which are these basins that tend to hold water longer. And the way the rocks are all jumbled around, there are lots of protected areas where the water doesn't evaporate as quickly. And so it was a spot that the indigenous people could usually count on finding water as they were moving around. So they often left pictographs, things like that in the area. So uh, sometimes we're able to go into areas where you can see some of those as well. I'm hoping to kind of incorporate that, at least one site so people can see an example of it.
fantastic. I mean, just so much to see. I think I'm going to be planning my second visit to El Paso. Can't commit to a permanent visit, but we'll see. It's everything is up in the air. Um, no, I appreciate you sharing the examples of the various places folks can enjoy the birding and the field trips that you'll be taking our members on. Quick question though. I tend to be more of a photographer, so I have my it's it's a long lens, it's a heavy lens, and sometimes it's a pain in the neck to travel with it. I do have a pair of binoculars. What is your, piece of equipment of choice when you go out there birding?
Both.
Both.
In fact, I'm sort of fanatical in terms of photography, so I'm actually more prone to take my camera with me than the binoculars because if I can take a picture of the bird, I have a record of it.
Right.
And with the binoculars, you get a nice close-up view of the birds normally, but with a photograph, I've got a record. But
I
I've
I
been out
love
there.
that.
So yeah, I'll probably have. Well, I don't know if I'll have my camera with me on the field trip since I'll really be focusing on helping everybody find birds. But when I'm going out by myself, I'm often encumbered with both. And I'm like you, I have a fairly long, heavy lens.
Alright. I love
Uh,
that. I think I'm gonna be bringing my lens with me, so you've Scott, you've sold me.
oh,
Before we head out, in thinking about your career and, you know, just this kid out there exploring and asking questions, as you kind of look back, uh, and think about the work you've done, the impact you've made through your career, your science, the research, now, as part of the El Paso Trans-Pecos Audubon Society. What's been your aha moment as you kind of look back uh, in your career and the work and the impact you've been making within the birding community, and for what the impact the Audubon is having?
I s- I think really finding that people are so enthralled with the outdoors and providing them with an opportunity to get out and learn about it. So many people are just amazed at what is out there. And most all of us now are living in cities and we hardly are out in nature at all. We go from our house to the car, to our office, to our school, and we get back in a vehicle and come back home. We may go to a city park every once in a while, but it's just not the same as being out in a natural area. So seeing through Audubon and these other organizations that I've been involved with, the impact we can have in getting people to learn about the outdoors, enjoy it, and want to protect more open space lands, natural landscapes. Uh, I think really been buoyed uh, in hope that we can really get more land protected uh, so that people can enjoy it. But not only people, I think it's critical that we also take into account all of the wildlife, plants, the sort of the environmental uh, services the outdoors provide to us as a community and as a nation. So I'm really excited when I can see kids and adults too uh, get this spark of enthusiasm for birds, wildlife, plants, and the history of indigenous people in the area. And I see them also want to help protect it. And I think that's probably the most important thing to me is that they see the importance of the outdoors and open spaces and want to protect it. So over the years, that's probably what I've been most thankful for is we've had organizations like the Audubon Society or uh, the Frontier Land Alliance, the Land Trust, the Sierra Club, all these organizations that really see the importance of open space and working to educate people about it and its importance to us.
Excellent. That has been a consistent theme with all of the interviews so far that we have produced for Visit El Paso is one, get out there and explore. It is without a doubt the El Paso region has so much to offer in terms of the outdoor experience. And so walk away from the computer, take a book, a nice chair, your nice get a hat, some sunscreen, take a camera, binoculars, but just go explore somewhere, sit, relax, and just take in what nature has to offer. That's been a consistent theme. And then the other one is just within this region, there's this very strong ethos about wanting to protect the land and see that it's there for this generation and for following the generations that follow. And so that I love the fact that this theme it continues. So it's wonderful. If our listeners would like to learn more about the El Paso Trans-Pecos Audubon Society, where are the best places to go?
Well, I'd recommend going to our website, which is www.trans-pecos-audubon.com. So that's www.trans-pecos-audubon.com. And if that's a lot to remember, just type in El Paso Audubon, and that'll get to the site as well. And we do have
Fantastic. Well, we're going to provide the backlink to it, and as well as you do have a Facebook page. And by the way, I did lift this picture from your Facebook page. I hope that was okay. Uh, for our listeners, I always have a nice background that respects who my guest is and honors them and their participation in these episodes. So, got a nice logo, and I've got a nice. What bird am I looking at in my background?
it's a pyraloxia. It's like a desert cardinal,
Oh wow,
close relative to the cardinal.
excellent. Does it make the same beautiful sound as the cardinal?
No, not quite. It's a little different, but
Okay, okay.
recognized as a cardinal-like bird.
Yeah. Now that I'm looking at it, it does look like a cardinal-like bird. And growing up in the Midwest, the cardinal, it brings me back to my childhood of this is when you knew spring was coming because the cardinals would show up. So, Scott, thank you again for taking time out of your day and really being a wonderful board member and ambassador for not only the El Paso Trans-Pecos Audubon Society, but also for the entire region of El Paso and the various sites, Franklin Mountains, Waco Tanks, uh, the other the locations, the Castner Range, the Rio Bosque, the Kevin Von Finger wetlands. You've chatted about all of them, and it's I think they should also be contributing to your retirement fund for all the great accolades and interest that you have prompted. At least for me, I hopefully for our listeners who want to come down and visit El Paso. So thank you again for taking time out of your day to join us and chatting about the El Paso Trans-Pecos Audubon Society and really what our members from the OWAA can expect when they come and attend the annual conference. So thank you so much.
Well, it's my pleasure, Howard. I look forward to seeing you and all the other folks at the conference.
Fantastic. Stay on the line, please, and we're going to do a quick close, and you and I can have a final chat.
Very good.
All right, folks, we have just been chatting with Scott Cutler. He's a board member of the El Paso Trans-Pecos Audubon Society. Really hope you enjoyed this episode. I know I did. I'm kind of geeking out in silence here because I just cannot wait to get down there because I love watching the birds and seeing them. And like Scott, his love for having a camera with them with preferably a long lens because you don't want to scare the birds away, but just capturing those birds. It's a wonderful feeling, and not only to see them and to hear them. Loved the conversation around the public outreach that the organization is a part of. Really the many birding opportunities, whether it's seasonal or the native birds, and really the various locations throughout this region that are they're so inviting for the outdoor experiences that are available. So I hope I'm confident that my fellow OWAA members are really going to have a fantastic time when they come to the annual conference next month. Do go out and visit the Audubon Society's, El Paso Trans-Pecos Audubon Society's website. We're going to provide a backlink to it as well as to Facebook. We'll have backlinks to all the other sites that Scott had mentioned on our show notes. As for us, you can visit us at outdooradventureseries.com, where this episode will be published. You can find us on our LinkedIn and Facebook pages. We are also on YouTube and Instagram. And of course, you can listen to this episode wherever you get your podcast from. Okay, folks, really, again, want to thank Visit El Paso for sponsoring this episode of the Outdoor Adventure Series. Thanks to their support, we can introduce you to guests like Scott and also introduce you to the El Paso Trans-Pecos Audubon Society and what their mission is. And really just a great way for you to hopefully begin planning your El Paso getaway or outing. Of course, you can visit the El Paso website at visitelpaso.com. Okay, folks, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, go out there, have a phenomenal day, and we look forward to having you join us on a future episode of the Outdoor Adventure Series podcast. Take care.